Provincial Command Council of this province, Limpopo, met this morning and appreciating the President's recent pronouncement and the lowering of COVID-19 alert level to level 2, including the easing of numerous restrictions. The Provincial Command Council, therefore, welcomed the pronouncement, and we are of the view that the stimulus packages provided by the government will, on the other hand, relieve the thousands of unemployed and distressed Limpopo people. We, however, wish to caution on the excitement brought by these changes. The scientists still believe, in fact, that the worst is not yet over. Only if our people behave, then we can say the spread of the virus will be abated. With a population of more than 6 million, the Limpopo province currently is at 11,738 cumulative number of COVID-positive cases, with a recovery of 10,281 cases and a death toll of 165, as per the latest reports. We have relatively done well, very well, in fact, very well in an effort to defeat this scourge that continues to afflict humanity. Out of 74,806 cumulative tests conducted, only 11,738 were positive, with a positivity rate of 15.7%. The case fatality rate, CFR, remains way below 2%, with the current number of deaths at 165. That brings you to the CFR of 1.4%. This province continued to record lower numbers of infected healthcare workers, which currently stand at a cumulative 831, both public and private sector, and 733 fully recovered and back at work. There's been only 3 deaths of health workers who were doctors who are in the private sector. We really mourn this loss of such a scarce skill, and once more send our condolences to the bereaved families. May their souls rest in peace. It is in this context that I commend the Department of Health in ensuring that during the most difficult times, all our frontliners and last liners of defense had the necessary PPEs. The province never ran out of PPEs throughout the duration of the pandemic. There was never a health facility that was closed in the public health system during this pandemic. Services were always available to our people. As a result, we never closed any of the facilities. The admissions in our facilities for COVID-19 or for COVID-related ailments remained very low. There is no doubt that our pushback strategy has paid off. It is also worth noting that we remain with a healthy capacity to handle any eventuality. We are ready for any surge should it come to that. The pushback strategy, as you would remember, is during that time when the entire Executive Council, in fact the entire PCC, the Executive Council, HODs, executive mayors, and the police would then go into and do field work. Go to villages and ensure that we do awareness, we conscientize our people, we even mobilize them against this virus. Ladies and gentlemen, we have noted concerns about allegations of corruption with regard to the procurement of PPEs. I must mention that from the first day, we have endeavored to ensure that all procurement is done in an open, competitive, and cost-effective manner. However, because we take allegations of corruption seriously, I have brought the Special Investigation Unit, SIU, who have been mandated by the President to investigate the whole procurement regime throughout the country. When the President proclaimed these investigations, we did not hesitate to consent to the proclamation, and we are happy that the process has since begun. If I'm not mistaken, I think we were the first to consent. In addition to this proclamation by the President, I have also made a special request to the Special Investigation Unit to pay special attention to the allegations that have been raised in the recent past. In this regard, the Special Investigation Unit will investigate COVID-19 related procurement in the three big departments. First, the Department of Health, Department of Education, and COGSTA. This investigation will also cover the Talani transitional residential units in Tzaneen. In terms of overall procurement, on the 19th of March 2020, the National Treasury issued the Instruction Note 3 of 2019-2020, which prescribed for us or to us procurement instructions for emergency procurement to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. The instruction note confirmed that the nature of goods that are required to prevent the spread of COVID-19 are not goods ordinarily procured, and that high demand of these items by both the public and the private sector may lead to uncompetitive and inflated prices. In April 2020, the National Treasury withdrew and replaced Note 3 of 2020-2021 with Note 5 of 2020-21. This note prescribed processes for the emergency procurement procedures of COVID-19 PPE items and loss masks for easy, or perhaps should I say for ease of supply by SMMEs. It also created an environment for stimulation of local supply and provide institutions to procure required goods or services by other means, such as price quotations or negotiations. In Limpopo, the provincial department, including the Schedule 3C and 3D public entities, awarded COVID-19 procurement to the value of 728 million, or should I say 728.4 million for the period March 2020 to June 2020. The institution that awarded the highest value was the Department of Health at 548 million, which accounts to 80.28%, followed by the Department of Education at 129.4 million, which accounts to 17.76%, with the rest of the departments and public entities awarding procurement to the value of 14.2 million, which accounts to 1.96%. A full table of what has been supplied and by who has been made available to the National Executive, Treasury, and all other relevant structures for consolidation and review. In terms of procurement, various stages, or should I say, various strategies were implemented in various stages of the pandemic. This being a novel situation, it found us not ready, and no one could claim to know what the future would be. There's been significant empowerment where local businesses benefited. As a matter of fact, an overwhelming number of businesses that benefited from this procurement are local businesses. Youth and women-owned businesses are amongst the businesses that benefited from this procurement. Whilst there are instances where some of the items were sourced outside the province, these were unavoidable as there was no supplier for those specifications. The province had to ensure availability of PPEs at all costs because it was a matter of life and death. We do believe our procurement processes have been fair, transparent, and according to the prescribed provisions. All goods were procured from companies who are on the CSD data. Nevertheless, where there are doubts, the SIU is here, and it is their task to ensure that they verify. They will definitely leave no stone unturned in unearthing any form of malfeasance so that we take the necessary corrective action. The Provincial Treasury is also busy reviewing the awards made by various institutions and verifying the information provided by the provincial institutions to accounting and other information management systems. This is to authenticate the information and to verify compliance to the various National Treasury instruction notes. It must be noted that the list of the awards made per provincial institution to each supplier have been handed over to the special investigation units for further investigation. In the same vein, the Auditor General's Office has extended the current audit scope to include the review of the COVID-19 expenditure during the current audit cycle. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore wish to reiterate what the President of the Republic, President Matamela Ramaphosa, said when he signed the SIU proclamation a few weeks ago. And I quote, "We are therefore determined that there should be no theft, no wastage, and no mismanagement of public funds. The consequences for those who break the law or bypass regulations will be severe." And I must emphasize that we support, we share, and we agree with the President here. And he has got our absolute support. It is therefore my privilege to call on anyone who may have proof or evidence of theft or corruption or corrupt activities in the procurement of COVID-19 PPEs to report to law enforcement agencies and really assist us to deal with these allegations. It can't be right that you just have allegations, but there is no substantial evidence that gives you reason to take a particular action, what you would call prima facie evidence. Lastly, I wish to thank the people of Limpopo for their resilience and patience over the past difficult 5 months. Once more, I implore on you to continue observe protocols during this alert level 2 and beyond. We have come this far working together and united in action. We can do more. I thank you.
When we met in the previous press briefing here, a commitment was made by the DG for Department of Human Settlement about the investigation and the appointment of structural engineers that will be verifying the work that has been done at Talan. And in terms of exactly today, as Wednesday, because the press briefing was also on Wednesday at the same venue. In fact, today, as I'm speaking here, the delegation from the Office of the Minister and the communication from the Department of Human Settlement is in a meeting with the Department of Coxstar as I'm speaking here to receive a preliminary report that I will be able to attend to. But you will remember that it was meant by the DG for National Human Settlement. It will be released properly by the Minister because they were verifying the work that was done in the province. So the work in terms of that, I think I have seen teams that were coming on site to see what actually happened in the Talani project. The second question wants to understand the suspension that we have caused in the construction of the Bakersford extension. Maybe I should also clarify at the beginning that this was just one project which was meant to decongest people in Talani and Bakersford. And the appointments for HDA was for 192 units, which meant the 40 in Talani and 152 in Bakersford. After we realized and heard what comments were coming from the Talani project, it's implemented by HDA, the same contractor is the one is there. We felt that we could not necessarily proceed with the work at the Bakersford extension before we receive the reports and rectify any other challenge which has happened at Talan. So I can safely say the project is not necessarily cancelled. It's on suspension until we get the report and what we see that can be done as a remedial action to the project of Talan. At that time, I think we'll be able, through the work of the HDA, take the people of the province in confidence and make sure how do we move forward in terms of completing that, because the intention was decongest people who are currently at Bakersford Extension 10, and we are continuing to be working on that. And we are doing everything possible to be engaging even local people in that space. I thank you. The question says, is that the provincial government now taking responsibility about the Talani project? Hence, the Premier has handed over to the SIU for investigation. I must indicate that there was not any time where, as a provincial government, we would never took responsibility of that project. Hence, it was the MEC for Coxstar and the Premier who was handing over that project at Talani. That showed that that is our project. They will never, did not take responsibility somewhere else. What happened to the project is that it's a project that is done in the whole country to decongest people who are found to be in a densely populated informal settlement. And it's a government program which we call the upgrading of informal settlement within our communities. So that is part of that. So it's a provincial government's responsibility through the funds that we get from national. So for the fact that the Premier is handing over for the investigation in Talani does not necessarily start today because it's handing over. The project has been part of us. It has been part of our business plan after we have revised it in terms of responding to COVID-19. So it's our responsibility as government to make sure that we congest people in the whole province. So there's never been a time that we ran away from the responsibility of that project. So even now, even the investigations that are done by the minister, we will be able to be favored with the report and be able to impact on us as the people of this province. But I should be able to indicate that in the previous press briefing, we even took you in confidence to say what was the problem more than anything else in that project was how we communicated with the public as the provincial government. And I said, and I took responsibility here to say we should have done better and we should be able to do. And we're doing something about it. We will be able to be reporting to the Premier on what is it that we're doing in terms of how we communicated about the project, which is us. So there's never been confusion. I received another question through a WhatsApp. The spokesperson, Mr. Matiba, gave it to me. It's about the minister who is requesting us, a provincial government, to retract the blame that we have shifted to the national government. And I think I want to relate this question to another question that I was asked in one media, to which I was asked whether the Premier knew about the project or not. And people said I'm arrogant when I was responding to say, whenever I talk to the Premier, I talk to him directly. I don't necessarily read from somewhere about what the Premier has said about me or the department, because I've been appointed by the Premier. Even in this case, I will not say the Premier or the MEC at one point blamed the National for the project in Talan. It could be everybody or somewhere else people captured, not in a wrong way. I know that I have advised the Premier and said this is a national project. And even today, that's why, as I said here today, the representative in the office of the minister is here in the province to show that this is a project that we are working together. The decongestion of people has taken place in Mamelodi. About 500 TRUs were installed like we did ourselves. In the Eastern Cape, they took place, and everywhere else. So it's a national project. To the fact that we never shifted the blame to any national department. The issue is we appointed HDA. The money that has been utilized is the money that was supposed to work in this provincial government. So we are the people responsible in terms of the funds. But the procurement, we said it to you, has been done through the HDA appointing as an implementing agent for the project. And we should be able to be working like that. We are working well with the minister. I'm on a day-to-day as talking to the DG and making sure with the minister that we are cooperating in terms of how we should verify the work that was done in Talan. So there is no confusion whether the national department is saying this or that. We are at one. We want to make sure that we decongest people. We make sure that we verify if there's any wrongdoing. Even welcoming the Premier's initiative of the SIU, we will be cooperating as a department to be able to make sure that no stone is left unturned, so that we can be able to go deeper to the problem as it is being mentioned. So there's no confusion about the line of communications between the minister and the MEC in the province. Thanks very much.
We work on the allegations that are given to us as the SIU, and our reports are evidence-based. Until we have got evidence that something has gone wrong, we cannot pronounce on it. And for us, integrity is everything. We cannot just make pronouncements that are general. Therefore, to that effect, we cannot make a pronouncement like that in this forum at any point. While I'm here, there was a question around what is the SIU looking for in the Talani project. I will not particularly say Talani project, but in general, when we do our investigation, we're looking into whether there are procurement problems, whether everything that was done in line with the procurement policies. We also look at whether the issue of the directive that was given by Treasury are followed. And then lastly, we look at value for money. Because in some instances, we have got to compare what was paid versus what is available. And that's what we do generally in our investigation, not necessarily on this particular one. I cannot comment on this one because they are only now handed to us by the Premier's office. And we appreciate the fact that the Premier's office has taken the initiative of handing them to us. so that we can immediately start our investigations. In this particular instance, we are not going to start by going to look for a proclamation, because we have got a general proclamation, which is Proclamation R23 of 2020, which gives us the powers to investigate all institutions of state, be it municipalities, provincial offices, provincial departments, national departments, and state-owned institutions. And that is what we will be doing. The terms of reference are guided by the proclamation. In this particular instance, we are not going to have separate terms of reference, because if you go and look at that proclamation R23 of 2020, it says that we must investigate all procurement that was done during the COVID-19 or the state of disaster in relation to the relief funds that were given to all government departments. Therefore, what has happened today is the fact that the Premier said we must go and investigate Department of Education, Department of Health, Coxstar, and in particular the Talani project. Therefore, all of those fall within the proclamation. Therefore, the terms of reference are what the President presented to us, and it doesn't end there. If there are other allegations that will be coming in other departments or SOEs within the province, we will also put them under the same kind of proclamation. Maybe I should also use this opportunity to say that we are already receiving cooperation from the province. The provincial treasury has already given us a list of all the contracts that were entered into during this period. Mr. Ndou here is busy looking at them, and we are going to then decide on which ones we will follow and which ones we will not follow. But for now, we are dealing with these three departments and the project that we are having, and all of them, the terms of reference are there. You can go to our website, look at Proclamation R23 of 2020, and you will see what it empowers us to do. Thank you.
There's no one amongst the executive members of management who has resigned or has shown any intention to resign. As such, I want to confirm that the CFO is on duty as we speak. We don't have a challenge with any surgical mask or any PPEs. I think in the previous media briefing, we have indicated that we owe it to the availability of quality PPEs to be having, to be one of those provinces that have registered, as we speak, the lowest number of healthcare professionals who are infected. We further even said at that time when we met, we had registered 0 mortality amongst the healthcare workers. Unfortunately, this time we are reporting 3, but those are even who are independent practitioners. That's why we even said with the HOD, we need to extend our scope of monitoring the usage of PPEs even to the independent practitioners. Because where we are responsible and where we are accountable, which is the state, up to date, Premier, you can be proud to say all your employees who are frontliners and the last line of defense, none of them has succumbed to COVID-19. Few of them have been infected as compared to what is currently happening globally. And we owe it to the quality of the PPEs that is being delivered. We are saying whatever amount of PPEs that is being procured, it is done in terms of the specification not designed by us, but the National Department of Health. And before any item is delivered, there is that committee that goes and look at it to find that it's indeed meeting those requirements. That's why even those PPEs that are being donated by private sector, we refuse to accept them, but says our committee must first go and assess and find that are they meeting the specifications. So we can never compromise the life of our healthcare workers by making sure that we deliver poor quality PPEs. Because you must know that if we give you, we say we're giving you an N95 mask when it's not actually the N95 mask, the damage is irreversible because you will get infected, and when you get infected, you might not make it. So that's why we can't play and gamble with their lives. So we want to reassure you that if when we come to labor, when you say PSA has raised that, what we can indicate to you that we, in our province, we meet every Tuesday with all our labor unions who are organizing within the Department of Health. And issues of PPE, it's always number one on the agenda. Not only do we do that, NEHAU has a partnership with the HOD. They visit hospitals together to monitor the availability of PPEs. And also NEHAU on its own has got its own program where they will do visits to check the availability of PPEs. So DINOSA on its own has got a war room which they've established, which is comprised of shop stewards from a lower level, which are responsible to look at those quality of PPEs. So we do understand the current mood that is out there. Then to say I want to be relevant as a trade union, I will have to throw my word and say, Premier, act on this MEC because she has got the PPE from China. But what this is doing to us, I must say this, maybe I will be out of order. What this is doing to us is that instead of us sitting and planning that we are now relaxing to level 2, we must come up with strategy to continue to protect the lives of people of Limpopo. Instead, we must sit and start to be justifying ourselves. That I feel it's unfair to this whole table that is here. Because our job now is to say, once we relax this level, people are going to be free. They think we've got a vaccine. They think COVID-19 is over. You will see in the next coming few days, we might get a 10% increment of infection rate. So we need to sit down and plan for that and work hard so that we preserve and prolong the lives of people of Limpopo. Thank you very much.
Placing anybody, an MEC or an HOD, on special leave. I would want to get something substantial to allow me to do so. But as for now, I don't have anything. I've got reports, I've got records. Everything that has been done professionally and procedurally according to the reports that I'm having currently. So I don't have any basis currently of putting anyone on special leave. You're quoting organizations and individuals who have been saying things. One of them was actually saying, because Makura in Gauteng did this, why don't you do it? I then remembered at some stage one Bantustan leader also saying that, because so and so did it, why can't you did it? You see? So I am not going to do things simply because somebody did something in a particular way. Each and every individual case has got its own merits. I'm not going to simply say, because Pete Rampedi, coming from whatever angle that is coming from, says MEC Ramathuba is a friend to her former colleague, former MEC Onikamulu, and he then parades a picture of the cultural day where all of us were there. All of us were shooting pictures, the photos there. He says this is evidence that they are friends. Oh, what do? Does it mean that had I taken a photo with her or with MEC Masemo, maybe, let me be safe, with MEC Masemo, was he going to be referred to me as my friend? Whilst we did that in a work situation, and we always do that. So should I really go to an extent of suspending somebody who has produced such quality results for the people of this province? Simply because somebody suspects. Unless if, like the situation in Gauteng maybe, as I'm told, and I'm talking under correction, as I'm told that the MEC himself consented that I have got this family, they are our family friend. If she says to me, yes, Onika is my friend, and yes, I've participated in this procurement processes, and this is what I did, then I'll say, hey, let me go and investigate this perhaps, because you may interfere with the investigations. Please step aside and allow us to investigate this matter. And you can't use the stepping aside or a suspension as a punitive measure, unless if it comes as a sanction after conviction. But when you are still investigating, you don't do that as and use it as a punitive measure. I think SIU has appropriately responded to the Dalan matter. They are going to investigate anything. It's an open-ended investigation. If Makamu or Mathabatha got something out of that project, they must investigate that. We are not going to be able or allow anything to be kept under the carpet. Is there a problem of corruption in Limpopo? The problem of corruption, I would say the reason why we have got systems, we're putting in place systems, the reason why we are putting in place regulations is because we want to avoid corruption. Because human beings in their own nature, they've got certain weaknesses. So we must guard against that, because we are taking care of a public purse. We must guard against that. If we find that person to have succumbed to that weakness, we hit him hard. We have done that before. At some stage, the entire executive was dissolved in this province. At some stage, 5 government departments were put under administration in this province. At some stage, people were recalled from number 1. At some stage, the Director General of this province was dismissed from employment. We have seen people going through cases. At the present juncture, somebody, I think is the CFO of the Department of Agriculture, is still going through court processes. We have recalled mayors on the VBS issue in this province 2 years ago already. And surprisingly, the same person that you are talking about was saying, Gauteng is recalling a mayor from such and such a place. Why can't you do it? We have done it 2 years ago. Why should we do it again? The same thing that they are doing now, we did it 2 years ago. So, I don't know, but I've got no reason to put anyone on special. Maybe I should start with this issue, the Talana project. Mikuku ya wo bioscope lo Mathabatha. Hey, yeah. This project, like I said last time, we were at Vegasford at Extension 10. And when we were there, we realized that here is so congested that social distancing is actually impossible. Then I said to the MEC, we need to do something immediately about this. What can we do? And then he said, there is a national project that is already being implemented in areas like in Mamelodi and whatever. Let me find out if we cannot participate in that project also. Remember, the South African government is a unitary state. It is possible for a province to participate in a national contract. The provincial government doesn't have an entity called HDA. It's a national entity reporting to the Department of Human Settlement, nationally. So immediately after, because that was an emergency, it was an urgent thing, we then said, let's request HDA. After he had done his own investigation and consultation in the National Ministry, it was found that it is possible to do it in that way. Hence, it was implemented by HDA, which is an entity of the National Department of Human Settlement. So I don't understand where the confusion comes there. Why are we saying it must also be investigated? When you get this kind of allegations and outcry from the ground, as a government which listens, you need to say, perhaps there may be something to this. Because this money is going, despite the fact that it was implemented by the national entity, this money is going to come from the provincial coffers, even if it was not going to come from the provincial coffers. Let's take the issue of where money comes from and put it aside. Even if it was not, we were still entitled to can go to SIU or any entity and request them to investigate. Because we want everything to be cleared and cleaned in as far as that project is concerned. The reason why we said it must be suspended is because of this outcry. And I'm sure, MEC, you'll make the investigation report after receiving it from the National Ministry. You'll make it available to the media, or perhaps the National Ministry will make that investigation report available to you. So for now, let's stop pointing fingers at each other. We are a unitary state. Are we denying that there is nepotism? Or there was nepotism in these contracts? You know, nepotism is one form of corruption. Or in some instances, corruption manifests itself in a form of nepotism. So, the reason why we are saying we are investigating is because we are saying out of our normal processes, out of the systems that we put in place for now, we can't find any credible evidence of nepotism. But that we cannot find it does not necessarily mean that it does not exist. Hence, we are saying there must be investigation to ascertain ourselves because there is a public outcry. And these are the people whose mandates we are supposed to execute who are making this outcry. So if they are making this outcry, we must investigate so that we can come up with corrective action. But whether it is there or it is not there, we don't have substantial evidence to say yea or nay at the moment. Hence, those who have got the authority and capacity both capacity and capability to can investigate are then requested. Please go and investigate this thing. Investigate everything that is untoward about this project. So, I don't expect to see a headline saying, Makamu or Mathabatha, they are now accepting the Pralan project. And then, no. We are saying it was implemented by the national entity HDA, which is an entity of the National Department of Human Settlement, not us. Rena, we just wanted a quick solution for the problem that was going to jar our people. Hence, we are almost number one. I think we are number one now in the country when it comes to in the manner in which we handled this epidemic. So, political connections is still nepotism in a different form. So the same response will actually be relevant to that also. But one day, I am going to convene another press conference as the chairperson of the ANC. Because I have identified there are so many other things that needs to be clarified when it comes to political connections and all these allegations that are running around today. Very soon we'll be conducting another press conference, but now as the chairperson of the ANC. Thank you.
I wish to thank you, Mr. Premier, the MECs, the HODs who are here today, and the advisor to the Premier and the DG, and members of the Fourth Estate, the media colleagues, for coming by. We have come to the end of this media conference. The Premier will not be taking any questions after here. I think he's responded to everything. He won't be doing any interviews. If you want to talk to other people, maybe the MECs, they will give you such interviews if they want to comment further. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of this media conference. Appreciate it. Drive safely.